January 28th, 1906, 4:47 a.m, Helmsdale Station, Sutherland, Scotland. Stationmaster Duncan Macrae stands on the platform watching what should be impossible. The 11:30 p.m. mail train from Wick is 3 hours late. Not delayed. Lost. Somewhere between Forsenard and here, 40 miles of the far north line has vanished under snow. The telegraph lines went dead at midnight. Standard procedure says wait for the storm to pass. Clear the line when the wind drops. Macrae wires Inverness instead. 6 words. Send everything. Bring the ploughs. In the next 72 hours, Highland Railway will mount one of the great engineering assaults of the Edwardian era. 4 locomotives coupled together. Custom-built snowploughs designed in railway workshops. Charges at snow walls from half a mile away at 30 miles per hour. This is the story of how industrial Scotland learned to fight winter, and won. The Highland Railway didn't choose to run through Britain's most brutal terrain. Geography did. By 1906, the Far North Line stretched 161 miles from Inverness to Thurso and Wick, threading through mountain passes and coastal plateaus where winter meant war. The line carried mail, passengers, fish from northern ports, sheep to southern markets. Cut it, and communities from Brora to Halkirk went dark. The Victorian age had made Scotland depend on iron roads. Nature didn't care. The route itself told the story of Victorian ambition meeting Highland reality. South of Helmsdale, the line hugged the coast, carved into cliffs above the North Sea. North of town, it turned inland, climbing through the Strath of Kildonan, where gold prospectors had tried their luck 40 years earlier. The gradient never exceeded 1 in 60, manageable for loaded freight, but those gentle slopes became death traps in winter. Snow accumulated in cuts. Wind packed it solid. A drift could form in 3 hours and take 3 days to clear. Highland Railway knew this. Their Lochgorm works in Inverness had been building snowploughs since the 1880s. Not the wedge-shaped American designs. Not the rotary ploughs the Canadians loved. These were battering rams. Angled iron plates mounted on reinforced frames weighing 3 tons each, designed to split drifts rather than lift them. The engineers called them plough vans. The crews had other names. The design came from experience. In December 1880, a drift near County March buried a passenger train for 36 hours. 6 people died from exposure. The inquiry blamed inadequate snow clearance equipment. Highland Railway's chief engineer at the time, a man named Murdoch Patterson, toured railways in Norway and Sweden. He came back with sketches. The first plough van rolled out of Lochgorm Works in April 1881. It weighed 2.4 tons and crumpled on its first deployment. The second version weighed 3 tons. It survived. By 1906, Highland Railway operated 5 plough vans, 3 stationed at Inverness, 1 at Helmsdale, 1 at Georgemas Junction. Each winter they moved north like an advancing army, following the weather. January 1906 came in hard. The first blizzard hit on the 23rd. Crews cleared the line in 2 days. The second storm arrived on the 26th. The third never stopped. Meteorological records from Aberdeen show what happened. A low-pressure system stalled over the Norwegian Sea. Northeast winds pushed Arctic air across northern Scotland at 45 miles per hour. Temperature at sea level, -8 Celsius. At altitude, -15. Snow fell continuously for 53 hours. Not the light powder that blows away. Heavy, wet snow that stuck to everything and then froze solid. By the morning of the 28th, snowdrifts north of Helmsdale measured 12 feet deep and 200 yards long. The wind, northeast off the North Sea, packed the snow like concrete. You could walk across the top of a drift and not break through. A single locomotive with a plough couldn't touch it. So they coupled 4 together. The idea wasn't new. Highland Railway had used double heading, 2 locomotives coupled together, since the 1870s. Heavy freight needed it. Steep grades demanded it. But 4 engines in 1 formation, that was desperation mathematics. Or innovation. Sometimes they're the same thing. The physics was simple. Mass times of velocity equals force. 4 Class F locomotives generated 340 tons of moving iron. At 30 miles per hour aimed at a snow wall, something had to give. Usually the snow, sometimes the plough, occasionally the track. Highland Railway's Class F locomotives were workhorses. Built between 1874 and 1894, they hauled everything the company owned. 4 coupled wheels, inside cylinders, 17 by 24-inch bore and stroke. Working pressure, 140 pounds per square inch. Tractive effort, 12,945 pounds each. Multiply by 4, 51,780 pounds of pulling power. The problem wasn't power, it was traction. Iron wheels on iron rails. Friction coefficient, 0.25 in good conditions. In snow and ice, 0.15. The locomotives could generate enough force to move a mountain. They just couldn't grip the rails hard enough to apply it. The solution was sand. Every locomotive carried sand boxes above the driving wheels. Open the valve, sand falls on the rail, friction increases. In theory. In practice, wet sand froze, dry sand blew away. The crews learned to heat the sand boxes with steam pipes. Hot sand doesn't freeze. It also doesn't blow away as easily. The first assault left Helmsdale at 11:20 a.m. on the 28th. Lead locomotive, Highland Railway No. 103, built 1894, driver Alexander Sutherland. Behind it, No. 95, No. 117, No. 124. The plough van rode ahead of 103 like a medieval ram. Sutherland was 41 years old, 23 years with Highland Railway. Started as a cleaner at Inverness Shed in 1883, fireman by 1887. Passed his driver's examination in 1892. He knew the far north line the way sailors know dangerous coasts. Every curve, every gradient, every place where snow accumulated. His fireman that day was Robert Mackay, 26 years old, strong enough to shovel 2 tons of coal in an 8-hour shift. Young enough to think charging a snow wall at 30 miles per hour sounded like adventure rather than suicide. They backed up half a mile south. Sutherland opened the throttle, 4 engines, 16 wheels, 1,360 horsepower combined. At 300 yards, they hit 25 miles per hour. The plough struck the drift's face at the base. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the drift exploded upward in a white geyser 40 feet high. Snow cascaded over the locomotives, buried the cabs, blinded the crews. The train kept moving. 50 yards into the drift, the plough dug too deep. The coupled engines lurched. The lead locomotive's wheels lifted 6 inches off the rail. Sutherland shut the steam. They'd penetrated 50 yards. The drift stretched another 150. Mackay later described what it felt like inside the cab. Like hitting a wall, a white wall that moved and screamed and tried to bury you. The snow came over the top, through every gap, down your neck, in your eyes. You couldn't see, couldn't breathe. Just hold on and pray the wheels stayed on the rails. They backed up. Tried again and again. 6 charges that day. Each one carved deeper into the wall. Snow packed around the plough, turned it into an iron wedge pushing a frozen mountain. By nightfall they had advanced 120 yards. The drift's far end remained intact. 20 men with shovels joined them after dark. Railway workers from Helmsdale and Brora, gangers who maintained the track, locals who understood what happened when the line closed. They worked by lantern light in -10 temperatures, digging vertical slots through the drift to weaken its structure. Cut it into sections. Let the locomotives finish the job. The technique had no name. They invented it that night. The gangers knew where to cut. Snowdrifts aren't uniform. They have structure. The windward side packs hardest. The leeward side stays softer. Cut vertical channels every 20 feet, and the drift's strength disappears. It becomes sections instead of a monolith. A locomotive can push through sections. The work was brutal. Each man dug a slot 6 feet deep, 2 feet wide. The snow fought back. It collapsed. It reformed. Your shovel struck ice that jarred your arms to the shoulders. Your feet went numb in minutes. Your fingers stopped working after an hour. They rotated shifts every 30 minutes, not for efficiency, for survival. At 6:15 a.m. on January 29th, the coupled locomotives made their 7th charge. The plough hit the weakened drift at 28 miles per hour. The snow wall shattered. 3 sections collapsed simultaneously. The train burst through into clear track beyond. 4 miles to the next drift. They hit 9 major drifts between Helmsdale and Forsenard. The pattern repeated: back up, charge, dig, charge again. The plough van's iron plates bent. Rivets sheared. The frame cracked twice. Railway blacksmiths at Georgemas Junction welded repairs while the crews rested. One locomotive developed a cracked cylinder. They uncoupled it, continued with 3. The damage to number 117 happened at the 5th drift. A hairline crack in the front left cylinder. Nothing dramatic, just a thin line weeping steam. But cylinders operate at 140 psi. A crack propagates. In an hour, it's a fracture. In 2 hours, catastrophic failure. Sutherland spotted it during a rest stop. They uncoupled 117, left it on a siding, continued with 3 engines. The physics changed. 3 locomotives, 255 tons, 25% less mass, 25% less force. The drifts didn't care about percentages. They cared about momentum. The crews had to back up farther, build more speed, hit harder. At the 7th drift, they backed up 3/4 of a mile, hit 33 miles per hour. The plough punched through in one charge. At the 8th drift, they backed up a full mile, reached 35 miles per hour. The plough's frame cracked again. They stopped for repairs. 2 hours while a blacksmith from Halkirk heated rivets in a portable forge and hammered them home with the temperature at -12. The mail train from Wick sat buried in a siding at Forcinard, snow-packed to the cab windows. The crew had survived 2 days on cold rations and coal heat. When Sutherland's rescue train arrived at 9:40 p.m. on the 30th, the Wick train's firemen had frost damage to 3 fingers. The passengers, 17 of them, had burned furniture from the mail car to stay warm. The Wick train's driver was a man named James Sinclair, 54 years old, 31 years with Highland Railway. He'd been trapped in snow before. In 1895, a drift near Altnabreek held his train for 18 hours. He knew the drill: conserve coal, keep the fire small but steady, ration food, keep passengers calm. But 2 days tested everything. The coal bunker held 2 tons, enough for a normal day's work, not enough for 2 days of stationary heating. By the second night, Sinclair was burning furniture. Wooden benches from the third-class carriage, mail sacks, anything that would burn. The passengers helped. They broke up the benches together, fed them to the firebox piece by piece. Nobody complained. You don't complain when the alternative is freezing. Highland Railway cleared the Far North Line completely on February 2nd. 5 days, 40 miles of track, drifts that exceeded anything in company records. The final accounting took weeks. The Lochgorm works studied the bent plough vans after the storm. The damage patterns told stories. Where the iron had buckled showed peak stress points. Where the frame cracked indicated design flaws. Chief Engineer William Stroudley ordered modifications: heavier plate iron, reinforced frames, improved coupling systems that distributed force across all 4 locomotives instead of concentrating it on the lead engine. Stroudley was a practical man. He didn't waste time on elegance. The modifications weren't pretty, they were functional. Add a 1/4 ton of iron here, reinforce a joint there, use bigger rivets, double the frame thickness at stress points. The new plough vans weighed 3.4 tons. They looked like medieval siege equipment. They worked. By winter 1907, Highland Railway operated 6 upgraded plough vans. The new designs could handle 15-foot drifts. They added a 7th locomotive to the standard snow assault formation. 5 engines, not 4. More mass, more momentum, more margin for error. Other British railways took notice. The Caledonian Railway requested blueprints. The Great North of Scotland Railway sent engineers to Inverness. Highland's multi-engine plough tactics became standard procedure across northern Britain. Not because they were elegant, because they worked. The adoption wasn't immediate. Railways are conservative organisations. They change when forced. The January 1906 storm forced them. By 1910, every major railway operating in northern Britain owned Highland pattern plough vans. By 1915, the design had spread to Norway, Sweden and Finland. By 1920, Canadian Pacific Railway was building modified versions for the Rockies. The January 1906 storm appeared in Highland Railway's official reports as exceptionally severe conditions requiring extraordinary measures. No poetry, just facts. Total cost of snow clearance, £2,340. Lost revenue from 5 days service disruption, £890. Cost of plough van repairs, £156. Compensation to stranded passengers, £47. The numbers mattered more than the drama, but the crews remembered differently. Alexander Sutherland drove locomotives for Highland Railway until 1924. He never spoke publicly about the Helmsdale assault. His fireman, Robert Mackay, mentioned it once in a 1932 interview. "We hit that drift like we meant to kill it. Maybe we did." Mackay retired in 1946, 50 years on the railways. He attended the opening of the Inverness Railway Museum in 1952. They'd preserved number 103, Sutherland's lead locomotive from the 1906 assault. Mackay stood in front of it for 20 minutes. A reporter asked him what he was thinking. "I'm thinking about the cold," he said. "How cold it was. How we kept moving anyway." The Far North Line still runs. Helmsdale Station still stands. Modern diesel locomotives pull passenger services to Wick and Thurso, following the same route that vanished under snow in 1906. The track doesn't close for winter anymore, not often. The techniques learned that January, the multi-engine formations, the manual cutting, the systematic assault on 200-yard drifts, passed into railway doctrine quietly, without fanfare. Industrial Scotland built 3,000 miles of railway in the 19th century. Most of it ran through terrain that didn't care about timetables or profits. The Highland Railway's answer wasn't sophisticated. 4 locomotives, 1 plough, half a mile to build speed. Sometimes the simplest solution is just pointing enough iron at the problem and opening the throttle. The snow didn't stand a chance.